deserve to have the best physical, mental, spiritual. Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Mike Hollis, Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm explaining myself first before the show. Definitely excited about our guest this evening. We're going to have a naturopathic physician on with us, and Dr. Mel is going to be kind of sharing a little bit of information about her business and what her passion is really. And one of the things that really got me really intrigued about the information I was provided by her is the fact that she wants to heal people within, because our bodies are meant to heal ourselves, right? The bodies are meant to heal itself, and getting away from prescription drugs. That was one thing, keynote, that I was like, okay, and that's my whole goal too. I definitely am in a position where I am so sick of hearing all the side effects and the things and the issues that people are experiencing because of the medication that they've been on for so long. And I say for so long because the fact is it's becoming a lifelong process. And I think it's on purpose, which really upsets me because, you know, our decision makers in the food industry and big pharma in the medical industry, they've got us, and they've got us handcuffed a little bit in the sense where they and again, this is my opinion. I think that there's some certain things that they actually do to cause certain issues. And they know if their drugs have a side effect, okay, well, we'll make a drug that counters that side effect, or we'll make, and it's a profit. It's a huge profit center for them. And when you think of the body healing itself, you have to know how to do that, how to teach your body how to heal itself. And I think that's what Dr. Mel's major goal is. And we'll find out definitely for sure from the mouth itself, of course, from her mouth. And with regards to just kind of the concept of what people are thinking and how they think, and what we've been kind of misled and kind of more or less brainwashed, I'll say, because I think we have been. And I think it's because of certain things. Obviously, I think it's the monopoly of the industry and the money that's made by sick people. Because in all reality, there's not a lot of money made for, in healthy people. So the sick people are making more people some money. So after we'll share a few moments to get some information from our sponsor, and then when we come back, I'll introduce Dr. Mel.
It is possible. It's different this time. I'm showing up for myself because now I know that weight isn't about effort alone. It's not just calories in, calories out. For years, the world told us it was simple. Eat less, move more, try harder. But science has shown us it's more complex than that. It's a real metabolic condition. That's where GLP-3 comes in. Powered by MBC 267. A naturally derived peptide complex discovered in salmon from the Norwegian Sea and select mushrooms. GLP-3 works with the body's own system to help manage appetite and support metabolic balance. No fighting your body, no forced outcomes, just support where it actually matters. Because when you address the real factors at play, progress feels possible. I'm becoming the best version of myself. This is me and GLP-3.
Okay, there she is. Dr. Mel, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I think I'm yelling. I don't know why I'm yelling. I think you look so distant, so far away. But some real quick information about Dr. Melanie Icard. She's a founder of Dr. Mel Holistics, and it's a naturopathic. She's a naturopathic physician, mind-body medicine expert, and creator of Biohacked Heart Blueprint, a groundbreaking terrain-based approach to cardiovascular health that goes far beyond cholesterol and medications. Known for her work featured on Sonoran Living, Dr. Mel attracts those who want more than symptom management. They want sustainable root cause healing, measurable improvements, and real transformation. After 10 plus years in the clinical practice, hosting international healing retreats and working with thousands of patients, she's known for blending cutting-edge metabolic science, nervous system regulations, trauma healing, and spiritual wisdom into practical repeatable systems that actually work. She specializes in helping high performance professionals and adults ages 40 to 75 in reverse insulin resistance, lower blood pressure, reduce plaque progression, and reclaim their energy without burning out or living on prescriptions. You can find a lot of information about Dr. Mel on her website. It's Dr. Melanie Icard, DrMelanie Dr. Melanie Icard. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I loved a lot of the things that you said, because it's funny. I was doing a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and I pulled up some fun facts. And did you know that they make trillions of dollars a year? I think it was even a month selling lipid lowering medications.
Of course, I believe it. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy. And the thing that's more crazy about it, because I'm sure everyone's heard that line that, like, okay, so if we want to take care of our heart, obviously no one wants to have a heart attack or a stroke, or, we want to age well and enjoy ourselves. You've got to keep that cholesterol down. If your cholesterol's up, they're going to hand you a medication. And then those medications aren't like a antibiotic you take for 3 or 10 days. It's forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so there's that forever part that makes it a pretty solid business. But for me, as a doctor that wants real results, it's the focusing just on squishing that number down. And if we step back, well, why is that high? Right? Where is it? Because there's all these things that are contributing to that. And my son always says, when you blame the cholesterol, it's like blaming the firemen for starting all the house fires, because they're always there.
Yeah. Again, misleading, brainwashing. How often have we been told that eggs are, the egg yolks, well, you got to eat egg whites because the cholesterol is too much cholesterol. Now we've got, statins for high blood pressure and all this stuff, knowing that there's all kinds of side effects from statins. And it's been, proven that it's a horrible drug. Okay. And that people just don't realize they can actually help themselves naturally. That's where you fit in.
Yeah. And here's one thing that people probably don't know is your liver, your organ in your body, makes pretty much all your cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just guess, since this is such a divine machine, that it's a miracle, right? That your liver probably knows how much cholesterol your body needs. And cholesterol is a stress repair molecule. It's also the backbone for a lot of things we need, like sex hormones. Nobody has any sex hormones these days. We don't need any help not making sex hormones, right? Vitamin D, your brain loves it. I mean, all these things, and it's and we're shutting that down, and it's not a good idea, right? Because our liver probably knows more what we need than the American Medical Association, Big Pharma. Just an idea, just throwing it out there.
But it's so true, though. You think of like vitamin D and how the cholesterol is actually, when you get the sunlight, the cholesterol produces vitamin D. And it is just awesome how, our nature is our healer. We talk about ground. I mean, I'm talking about all kinds of stuff, which a lot of people don't understand. I've got a grounding sheet on my bed. I love walking barefoot. I'm in Florida here in Jacksonville. And it's, of course, I'm a beach bum. And I love it. I love walking in flip flops and shorts because, if I don't have the opportunity, if I want to take my flip flops off, I want to ground. That's great. I'm going to do it. And I'm telling you, because professional football was part of my life for a long time, I just was morphed into this whole, take care of your body sort of mentality. It was part of my job. I had to stay healthy, right? So that just kind of transformed it through my story about, having ups and downs after retirement, getting really heavy and fat, we'll say, and out of shape and miserable. I didn't like it. And I was depressed, all kinds of stuff. So I've been up and down a little bit of the yo-yo, but for the last, I guess, maybe 12 years or so, I've been pretty consistent with my workouts and my diet for the most part. But I know, and I'm learning. Again, believe me, your knowledge is way above mine as far as what you're teaching us and so forth. But I do know that the body is much more capable of repairing ourselves within than we think. And I like the fact that you talked about where's the root cause. And I'm, as a kicking coach now, because that's what I've been doing for almost 20 years now. I'm a reverse engineer. I like to reverse engineer where did the problem start, or what causes what, the cause and effect, right? So you got to find the root cause of the problem. It's not, don't put a Band-Aid on it. And there's a lot of kickers out there and coaches out there who will teach you things that are just Band-Aids. They're not the actual root cause. And so I love that fact that you're focusing on the root cause of all these issues.
Yeah, and you know what a lot of times it's always in the mix, and a lot of times it is the root cause is it's stress.
Yeah.
It's stress and
I don't know
emotions, and then it becomes, because the stress hormone, and we need it. We can't villainize cortisol, because without it, we're dead, right? So we love you, cortisol. We just
that's the
want you
fight
to
or
be in
flight, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Too
then
much cortisol is bad on the body, but that's the fight or flight, hormone. So we do need it. And it's actually beneficial in small doses, of course.
Yeah, and then some of us, we won't point fingers, may have been living on cortisol and adrenaline and dopamine for decades, right? And so that's going to damage your vessels. And we haven't even put any food in our mouth yet. We haven't even talked about skipping the gym and the beach walks yet,
That's a
right?
good point.
So
That's a very good point.
And so that's why a lot of people that I work with, I tend to work with people that are business owners, right? So they're real doers and real busy. Even if they're very sweet, they have a lot of mental gymnastics going on all the time, right? And the hardest thing is taking the foot off the gas, right? So the mind's going, it's going to raise the cortisol, and then that raises your glucose or your blood sugar. So we haven't even had a snack yet, right? But we're already raising our glucose. And then whose glucose friend that goes along is insulin. And that's where things start getting tricky, right? And so I focus a lot on this part, because then after that, then we get the fat storage, the inflammation, the vessel damage, the high blood pressure, and the high cholesterol. And that's why we focus a lot on squishing down the blood pressure. And we have to, because sometimes it's dangerous, but that's not the destination. It's like focusing on the cholesterol or the blood pressure and just squishing down the one number. I say that's like going and having your family vacation at the truck stop. Like, but you have to stop there, but like, that's not where, like, why are you going to have vacation there? It's like we're halfway there, and the worst part is too, because people will get those labs or that imaging, and it's like, and then they're hyper vigilant and totally obsessed. Well, that's going to raise their cortisol and just enhance.
Here we are back to square one again, right? I like how you think about the actions of what you can do prior to eating, and think about the kind of the mentality that it takes to understand your body, and just realize that, again, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million more times, our bodies heal ourselves. That's what it's made to heal.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the right ways, which is why you're on the show, and why we have specialists like you out in the world now that are actually teaching us the proper way, the way that we are designed to be, or the homeostasis, all that stuff on a regular basis. And we got the government spraying stuff in the skies and all kinds of stuff that's hindering all that for obvious reasons, it seems like. And I don't want to be that conspiracy theorist, but I'm thinking there's a lot of conspiracies that have actually come true
It's crazy,
in the past year
right?
too.
So, yeah, you used to not be able to say, well, that's not, I mean, is that one of those flat clouds? What is this? What is this? Was that the cumulus flatus, or what was that? But one of my colleagues, it was an engineer before he was a doctor. And he got really into the chemtrail thing. And I don't know if we're allowed to say that, sorry, but and so he was measuring his sweat and his urine and measuring his aluminum, right? And on a regular day, it was low. It was like a 2, and said, well, no big deal. We're probably all a 2. But on a high chemtrail day, it would go up to something like 2,000. And I was like, I had no idea. I was like, okay. Whoa. And then the kicker for me, because I like to help people that don't want to have a heart attack, right? Which is probably all of us, is that the aluminum misplaces the calcium. And I get so many people calling me every day that have these really insanely large calcium scores. Like, check this out, Mike. So like a normal, right, calcium score is 0 to 10, right? But literally every day people call us that are 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. It's like, where is it coming from, right? Are they pounding Tums? Once in a while, you'll find a guy that's pounding Tums. But I mean, usually you can't find where it's coming from. So this was like a real missing spot. And we don't have to freak out. Anybody that's listening, don't freak out, because then he had a solution. And now I have all my clients doing this, right? Which is that we take boron, which is a really well-meaning mineral that we're all probably low in, and you and take boron, and then that would bring you back to baseline. So it helps remove heavy metals like aluminum, right? So, and that's really easy. I just have my clients squirt it in their water bottle every other day. And that probably would be a good advice for everybody to kind of look into, do some research on boron. And that's a really inexpensive thing to add into your lifestyle. And then the other thing is the far infrared sauna. So it sounds like it's red. You can't see it. It's an invisible wavelength that we can't see. But man, is that thing hot, and like it heats up immediately, and that's going to help push all those metals out. So I don't know what to do about the sky. That's not my lane. I don't know what to do about that, right? Sorry. But it's really easy to jump in a sauna for even 10 minutes. Like the one that we use, it's a beast, man. I can't get it more than 12 minutes in that thing, or the boron, and so these are really easy things. So we don't have to be having a meltdown about it. We just have to take action so that we can keep our vessel clean. And like you were saying, when the vessel's clean, it can just heal itself.
Right, right. I'm very curious on how, because I kind of explained a little bit about my indoctrination into health and wellness because it was part of my job, and I got a little bit more interested in learning a little bit more, and then I got older and got all these things. What got you started? How did you start this whole process of wanting to help people naturally?
Well, that's kind of a fun story. So, I mean, it starts out not fun, but so I was a regular kid. I grew up like eating Wendy's and, whatever, like Doritos. That seems kind of scary now with the videos you see nowadays. But what happened was it was a couple pieces, right? My mother, who was just a sweetie pie, like her friends call her Pollyanna, just sweet. And she actually got really sick with cancer when I was probably around 10. And if you've ever had someone close to you or yourself with cancer, it's a whole thing, and it's pretty gnarly, right? So it was just like all these treatments made her really sick and sicker and sicker, and she had a baby. So I literally didn't even go to school at like 10 and 11. I took care of my mother and her baby and went with her to all of her treatments, and I saw her degrade, and then she eventually passed away, right? And then on the other hand, and then that was a separation because the baby had a different dad, and me and my older brother, our dad was in Mexico. We're all from Alaska. Can you imagine being moved from Alaska as a kid to Mexico? And my dad had always been like a bit of a health nut. And I don't know if you remember, but in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't a lot of health nuts out there, right? And so we thought he was nuts. Like we're like, oh, Dad, you're not going to eat food for 10 days? What? And then he would be cranky in the first couple of days from detoxing, and we're like, he's insane. But like most things that I thought he was insane about, he was right, And so then we fast forward, and I have a beautiful son that's 22 now. And when I got pregnant with him, I was like, maybe Dad's onto something here. And I don't want this kid, I didn't know it was going to be a boy, but to lose his mom, right? Because when you're a kid, especially a girl, I don't know about being a boy, I'm sure it's hard too, but like not having your mom, that's hard. And so then I asked my dad to teach me, and being the second oldest and having 5 brothers, I did a lot of caretaking. So then going into this holistic healthcare was just like the natural next step. So I started the holistic lifestyle 23 years ago, and I learned stuff every day, Mike, like still,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I even relearn stuff, like things cycle back in. I'm like, oh, now I'm into bee pollen again,
Speaking of bees real quick, I mean, have you heard about like the chemtrails, we'll say it, how they're affecting the bees? Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I know the bees have been a major issue for years. And I also think it's kind of the stuff we can't see, right? It's like, it's the clouds, and then the frequencies, and like here we are on the internet, and like we love it, and it's so fun, but like, could it maybe be on a little bit different frequency or something?
Right.
One thing I know, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but did you know that there's a warning, there's like a caution warning label on the bottom of those big towers talking about they are like energy weapon type of things? I'm like, what the heck? But they're there.
That, and it's a little concerning. And again, there's one of those things like I don't know what to do about it. I don't like it, right? I wouldn't recommend renting some real estate to these people if they want to put one up in your building or something. Right. Just take the loss on that. But there is some frequency equipment that I think is nice, and like I fly a lot. I don't know if you fly a lot, and then that's kind of not as good for our bodies as well. So I take this frequency mat and I play it like 5 or 6 times while I'm flying, you know? And I find that really helps because have you ever done live blood cell analysis?
Not live, no.
Okay, so there's a guy, because I'm in St. Augustine half the time. So he comes to St. Augustine like
Oh,
once or
wow.
twice a month. Yeah, so we'll have to get together.
Very
So
cool. Yeah.
and so, but I did it out here, and I hadn't been traveling with the mat. And I was shocked because I'm such a health nut, right? Like I do practice what I preach, you know? And the live blood cells were clumped together. So when you think of a red blood cell, like from science or the internet, it kind of looks like a red donut hanging out by itself, but these were all together. And I was like, wow, I'm shocked. And I'm such a health nut. I imagine what's going on with the population. So I changed some of my protocols. You know, I upped my recommended doses of omega-3s and stuff like that. But I started using that mat and making sure I traveled with that mat and did a liver cleanse. And then just in 3 weeks, when I went back to St. Augustine, I had the guy check the blood and it was like perfect, like just the little donuts floating around. So I think because we're energy and everything's energy, and now there's all these frequencies at us, we have to look into getting some healthy energy devices in modern times.
Again, to counteract all the things that are affecting us in a negative way. So there's always, you know, I'll say always, but there's solutions, and that's what we're here for, and to provide. And I know that the world is learning more about certain ways, and the people who, like you and I, who understand and see it for what it is. It's a bunch of we're living amongst a bunch of poisons, and so there's others out there that are actually helping and providing some information to us normal people who actually understand what's going on and how to heal. Again, I can even bring up I've been down a lot of rabbit holes, and if I bring up the word med bed, you probably are pretty sure what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nobody really knows what they are because, of course, nobody all the big industries don't want to talk about it, because it's actually helping people. And of course, it might be a little secret, but there are ways, clearly. And the more poison we're consuming, not even knowing it, but knowing that there are poisons around us, the more poisons we're consuming, the more unhealthy we're becoming. But we are actually, through people like you, are actually finding remedies for these things, and natural remedies. I'm all about holistic healing, and I love that stuff. So one question about your the retreats that you do. To explain a little bit about that. You have a lot of retreats I like that fact, because when you get like-minded people who have the same maybe issues, problems, health issues, you put them in a room together for a week or two, or whatever the case may be, I think it means more. It's like almost like a sports team type of thing. I love that.
Yeah, I love doing the retreats. I only do small groups.
Okay.
So I like to do everything family style, and the people do make connections. Like I've actually had people fall in love.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Or become like almost like
Jason.
family, and they're doing Christmas parties and barbecues. Like really, like people really connect, right? And I think people want to connect, right? It's just, and so you have to make that container for them, right? And a lot of my folks, are really well-meaning, and they want to do like the Biohacked Heart Blueprint with me, right? And they may even sign up to do it, but then they have a hard time being in their environment and then be doing it, right? Because there's so many distractions, right? You've got work, you've got, who knows, right? We were just talking about how working from home is really hard for a lot of people, right? Because then they're like, well, maybe we should do the laundry, and like, instead of that,
the candy that's right behind me.
the focus isn't there. So giving that immersion where we can take you out of your environment and give you that reboot, right? And you can't skip the meditation or nervous system reset or whatever word doesn't freak you out, right? Relax time, because you're there for it, right? And you don't have to worry about what to eat, because we're going to feed you the right stuff at the right times and the right amounts, and we're going to give you the tools, because literally at the end of the day, it's not just your body can heal itself, but you are the one that's going to heal you, right? So we can give you tools because everything's inside of you, right? Whatever needs to be let go of, like what's the next step. So we just give you tools to kind of help bring that out of you. And the next retreats that are focusing on the heart, it's for people that need a reboot. It's for people that want to get their feet wet, right? Or just for people that don't think that they're time poor. They feel time poor, right? And that's part of the healing too, because like just trusting that the world won't fall apart if you take 4 days for yourself That's part of the healing.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I just thought this, that even myself, I catch myself every once in a while, like, I needed to sit down and take care of myself for a minute, because I'm always, you're always busy. We always got all these distractions and all these things going on that we kind of neglect our own selves. And our health is everything. Our health is worth way more than all the money in the world, because without your health, we're not ever going to have any money to begin with, because we're not going to be on the earth, get to a point where you can't live anymore. And there's clearly nothing to even understand at that point. But my point is really that we as a society and in general, people who understand or want to understand about health and benefits of eating naturally and healthy and so forth, and not listening to, I don't want to say their doctor, because again, I can talk to my mom and my parents. They're up in Washington State. They're a little bit on the conservative side, not meaning, liberal side, but with regards to just listening to everybody, believing everything they hear and see, and I'm trying to tell them, I'm in Florida, I'm 3,000 miles away from them, but it's almost like I'm living in a different world. I go up to Washington State to visit, and it's a very unhealthy, in my opinion, kind of an unhealthy environment. And I just wish that people would think outside the box a little bit, and know that the doctor isn't, you think about the education the doctors have. I think doctors are great. Doctors, you break your leg and go to a doctor. Perfect. Okay. Well, if you have a health condition, something that's internal as a problem, as a sickness, I'm not sure if a doctor is the best place to go, because I know what they're going to do. They're incentivized to prescribe you stuff. Mm-hmm. And again, they're taught what they're taught. And I don't know if you know much about Rockefellers and the Flexner report and where all this information is coming from. We as a society and world really have been learning from things that not necessarily are true.
It's one of those only industries. I mean, we could probably think of some more if we brainstorm, where it's really just top down, right? It's like, this is how it is. Okay. Right. And I always wondered too, because I worked in the hospital, I was a respiratory therapist for 11 years. And I always wondered why they had these intense residencies where they were pulling these 24-hour shifts. I'm like, why? Why not even just split the shift up? They don't need to do that. But I wonder if it was some kind of mental boot camp, I mean, stepping back, because it's why do they do this to these people? There's a book that you all should, get on audiobook or read if you're a paper gal or guy, but it's I think it's called Blind Spots in Medicine, because this has happened so often. Okay, perfect example, right? I'm a 1982 baby. Me and all my brothers, when we were born, were pretty much almost immediately taken away from our mothers and put in a plastic crib in a room under fluorescent lights with other babies that were just born and taken away from their mothers, and our family had to stare at us through a window, and that was normal. And it was totally nuts to think that we shouldn't do that and that babies should stay with their mom. And that was totally normal. Do you guys remember? That wasn't that long ago. And it even seems nuts to think about it now, how silly we were, right? Mm-hmm. So this kind of thing has happened repeatedly in medicine. And even when there's a lot of evidence, it's almost like there's this personality in conventional medicine where they dig their heels in, even with all this evidence mounting. Or I love where the guy that was like, hey, maybe we should be washing our hands. I don't know why all these ladies are dying after we work on the autopsies. And all the other doctors were offended. Oh, you think we're dirty? So just when people love to give me, I don't know about you, a hard time on social media. Not, they either love me or they hate me. It's one of these things, right? And they're like, well, that worked, then it would be everywhere. And it's well, that's not really how things work, right? When people follow the science, well, that kind of follows the money, if we want to be real.
Oh yeah. Which science are we talking about? The ones that were paid for, or the actual scientists that actually do real science? Or you're going to cherry pick the scientific literature that, and they talk about the vaccines. Oh, it's safe and effective. Based on what? One scientific, proof, whatever. But it was handpicked, and there's only one. There's not multiple. There's just one.
Yeah. What? Or even if we want to go back to the cholesterol thing, because I think people are still kind of waking up to this idea, is that came from the saturated fat fear. And I'll just say it in case you guys haven't noticed. When I grew up and we were afraid of fat, everybody got fat. That's what happened. You know? So
Yeah.
it didn't work out, you know. I forget the guy's name right now, but it was a 21 country report, like study, right? That supported this fat is bad for the heart thing. He only used like 6 countries in a 21 country study. So if we step back, we're like, oh, so what? So the other countries, it was okay to eat fat, and you and you didn't get it, and you didn't get a heart attack. So things have been stacked for you know for I mean money, greed, but also ego, right? People don't want to be wrong. You know, I get it. I don't like being wrong, but you know it happens, right?
Yeah.
And then it became a $1 trillion industry of medications to force down the cholesterol, which is a really well-meaning molecule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is some of the tips that you give people on, like, you know, I don't want to get into your business as far as giving up too much information. I know it's a business for you and everything, but with regards to just kind of some of the things that you see the most issues, most problems, and what kind of things do you initially tell those people with those kind of problems?
Well, I see a lot of people that have high blood pressure, and then a lot of people, like maybe even most people, are pre-diabetic, like, and they don't know it until we start working together. And that's where, so here's the way, this is the way it happens, guys. Okay. So it doesn't just happen overnight. So it starts with reactive hypoglycemia, which means your blood sugar is getting low. So if you're getting sleepy after you eat, we don't like that. Okay. That means that was a carb heavy meal, because it's kind of like a pendulum, right? So like what goes up must come down. So, if you start getting sleepy, you don't go to sleep. You get up and you move, get up and do 30 squats. Get that sugar into your muscles. Your muscles love sugar. And on a side note, that's why the stress raises our sugar, because our body doesn't realize that the stress is in our imagination, more or less, right? And so it thinks we got to run for our life. So it's making this glucose to go into our muscles so we can book it. But the booking it doesn't really happen. And then the turning it off part doesn't really happen. And that's how we kind of end up in that mess where first we get the sugar blues, where we get that sleepy, and we just think we're sleepy, but it's not. It's a metabolic effect that's not healthy or normal. And then we get insulin resistant.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I want everybody, they should just start on everybody, like, you know, when they're checking the cholesterol and the blah, 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 fasting insulin. Check your fasting insulin, because that's going to show up first, and that's going to be easier to unwind, or else just start working on it, because like 80% of America is insulin resistant. And then we get pre-diabetic, right? And then we get the type 2. And that's why it's like, oh, I guess, like, you know, everybody that gets old gets diabetes now, but it didn't used to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, it's that education is what we really, and this is why I've got this platform. I feel that it's, you know, I just want to get guests like you and just anybody in general, and even express my knowledge, which is nothing what you got. I'm learning. I'm in the process of actually learning and more. You know, I've got my basic foundation as far as what I know, but I think, you know, educating people is a big deal, because you're not going to see it out in the mainstream media. You're not going to see it in the real world, because it's not out there. And again, you know, you think about why we're not taught good stuff, good healthy, you know, foods and so forth. Although they did reverse the pyramid, you saw that, of course, and it's like,
I
wow,
was really surprised about that.
right,
Yeah,
right.
he's moving a lot of things. Like I was like, why do we have these dyes in the foods? You know, these kids probably don't have ADD; they just have red dye, you know, number 5 or whatever.
Right, right. And then he also said recently that, you know, in America, we have up to 10,000 ingredients in all of our products. Over in different countries, they have like 400. You know, like, wow,
The
that's a
other
huge.
The thing I'd like to see happen next, like maybe we can manifest this, is to take the seed oils out, right?
Yes.
'Cause
Well,
that's the
yeah,
problem. Because obviously we have to eat out sometimes. We're out and about, but like 9.9 times out of 10, that it's going to be cooked in seed oil. So even if we're being so good and we're getting the wild white fish with the broccoli, if that's all cooked in the seed oil, it's going to push everything to that inflammatory side, you know? And I think that would massively improve
that's
the
a great.
whole nation's health. Just take the seed oils out of the equation.
Yeah. And then you think about, you know, and again, we think about the money and think about the, you know, the profit margin and, you know, all this stuff with companies. And you think of all these fast food restaurants that are, the name of the game for those companies is to make money. So they're getting the cheapest of the cheapest of the cheapest products, and we're eating the cheapest of the cheapest. I mean, it's terrible.
And
Even
making us addicted to it.
that too, yeah. And they're hiring people that got us addicted to cigarettes. They're hiring those same scientists to make foods addicted to us. That is ridiculous. That is unethical. It's immoral. You name it. Fill in the blank. I'm just now I'm getting mad. No, I'm kidding.
Right. And so that's the best thing you can do is like the first thing I tell people, if you're doing a standard American diet, cool. I get it. I used to do it too. Just start by not going to the drive-thrus, by not going to the fast food places.
Yes.
Start with that. Like when you want to resist the urge, just resist the urge. Then if you're eating processed foods, like in a box and a bag, let's try to wean off of those. If there's a paragraph, like he was saying, like too many ingredients, you don't even know what half that stuff is, probably we don't want to eat it. Right. And then what I have all my clients do, this is something that you guys can lean into because it might be foreign to you. I just have them do 2 meals a day. Some of us do 1 meal a day, and you really want to be done eating by the time the sun goes down. Everything action happens while the sun's up. So don't work out at night. Don't work at night. This is battling your own natural rhythm and the earth's rhythm. And that's just you're not going to be able to heal like that.
It's funny you mentioned that about the fasting because our producer Jason said he hadn't eaten all day today. I'm like, okay, we'll probably wind down the show now because he's starving. He's got to get some food in.
Yeah, I know. The sun goes down early over there too, right?
The benefits of it though, too, at the same time. I was telling them the benefits of it too at the same time. Like, don't think it's a bad thing. Yeah, intermittent fasting is actually good for you.
Well, that's more natural for our systems, right? Because do you think that our ancestors were eating 3 meals a day plus snacks? Like they definitely were not, right? You could even eat, if you love eating, cool, I do too. You could eat the same amount of food and just squish it into 1 or 2 meals, and your body, you would lose weight. I mean, your body would function better. And if you haven't done it, you're going to love it because like less time cooking, cleaning, shopping, going to the bathroom, and then all this energy and time for other creative things that you might want to do.
Yeah. I'm kind of going through a company. It's a primal company. So they talk about, as far as the health coaching, they talk about what did we do back in the day? And, it's a fight or flight. It's like you get the food and we could eat, once or twice a day with the food we have. But if we don't have the food, then we got to hunt for the food, and it's going to take days before we get another kill or whatever the case may be. And that was just the way it was. And that's just the way our bodies are naturally, supposed to be.
Yeah. And I was a low blood sugar kid growing up. I was like a joke. I was the hangry girl, right? And they would just say, feed her, feed her, feed her. Well, and that was the old and even still advice for low blood sugar. But if you do that, that is a recipe for insulin resistance and later prediabetes. And one of the reasons I'm so nuts about this, you guys, is like, this is embarrassing. Okay. I literally stressed myself into pre-diabetes. I am not even kidding you. And here I am like this working out, going to the river. I'm doing my Whole Foods naturopath and I do my labs and I'm like, what in the actual is happening here? And that was not acceptable for me. So then I had to do a deep dive and then I started and obviously had to unwind that. Thank you, God. Right. And then I started looking at my patients and they look hot, they're biohacking lady guy. And then we're like, man, they're riding a roller coaster all day long, And so just, it's anything like he said that they can't, the hospitals is good for emergency. If something kind of chronic or like low grade is going on, we have to tighten up that glucose and insulin. That's your metabolic foundation. So if that's like a roller coaster, how are we going to build anything on top of that? And then we can do the other cool stuff like the peptides and the hormones and, the stem cells. But like the foundation has to get cleaned up. You have to detox. After you get off the fast foods and the processed foods, you got to detox. And it's 2026. So you can't detox once a year anymore. That was like 10 years ago. So we've got to detox at least, 3 times a year. And I'm having all my clients do a gut kit once a year because our guts get really inflamed.
Absolutely.
And then that leaks out, and believe that gut inflammation can raise your blood pressure. Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's incredible information, and definitely really appreciate you being on with me tonight. And definitely, how can people find you? How can they access your services?
Yeah, so we're on YouTube. It's ITS Dr. Mel. It's Dr. Mel, and on the other, I'm on TikTok and Facebook, Instagram, and it's Dr. Mel Holistic. And we have a website. It's Dr. Melanie Icard, ICARD. And if you go on there, there is a free masterclass that kind of explains this Biohacked Heart Blueprint and how we help people, reverse these things, get off of their meds, get their plaque down and stuff like that. And we do a live webinar twice a month. So you can register for that if you want to come and ask your questions and stuff like that.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'm going to get on your news list and I'm on your newsletters and get some information. Definitely want to hear more about it for sure. And I'm sure listeners will as well. So thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, and definitely we'll stay in touch. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that concludes our episode for tonight. And I hope you guys enjoy an amazing Monday evening. We'll see you next Monday night at 5:30 on Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Thank you for watching Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.